Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there, and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m., and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. Now, all over social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsors for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radio communications without drop zones and dead zones and all the inherent limitations of your telephone and all kinds of other stuff. So reliable two-way radios, Raycom Radios. I got a special guest for you today. So, Mary, I want to welcome you right away, and I want you to give me your bio and tell me what your foundation does. But welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, first of all.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me on this voyage with you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, it is exciting, and you do such wonderful work. And I've got so many people that wanted you on this show that told me about you. What I'm trying to do is promote people that are active in the marinas, of course, at the yacht clubs and some of the youth functions, but especially when it comes to the environment and the oceans and, you know, making our playground fun for all of us to use. So tell us what the foundation is and what your goals are and some of the stuff that you do.
Thank you. And again, I'm honored to be here and very flattered. Surfrider Foundation is a national, it's actually got chapters overseas too, an international organization that is dedicated to protecting our ocean, waves, beaches, and waterways and coastal access for all. And we work on a variety of different fronts, but mainly we're an activist network, and we work to get people engaged in protecting their environment, learning about water quality issues, climate change, coastal erosion, beach access, inclusion so that everybody has access to the water, and that's people who live inland and people who may have physical differences that make it hard for them to get to the water or in the water. So we work on a variety of those fronts. And we have a series of chapters, about 200 chapters nationwide, and we're in the South Bay. That's where our chapter is, and we stretch from Playa on the north all the way down through San Pedro, and then also, of course, inland. And our main focus here at the South Bay chapter is a water quality testing program under the Blue Water Task Force program for Surfrider Foundation called Teach and Test, where we teach middle and high school students to collect water samples along the coast and in wetlands and bring them back to our lab at Dive and Surf and process them to check for bacterial contamination that can make people sick when they go in the water.
So you're at Dive and Surf, the legendary, iconic location out there in Redondo Beach in South Bay? Is that where you're located?
Yes. We used to have our lab at the Sea Lab, but as everybody knows, it had to be closed, which is very sad, and we were very, very sad to leave there. But then I approached Dive and Surf, and I said, hey, can you give us a home? And they just brought us in like we were family, and anything we need, they give it to us, and our lab's outside, and we store our equipment inside. So people walking through the shop actually get to see us working and always stop and ask us about it. So it's a really excellent opportunity for education and outreach, as well as supporting a local business. That's where I buy all my dive gear. They're a wonderful group of people, and I had several of the young ones as students when I taught in the Redondo School District. So it really is a family, and I'm so honored to be at Dive and Surf.
I'm excited. We've got to get them on the show. Dive and Surf single-handedly invented teenagers having fun in the ocean. I give them credit for all of it. I grew up with the Dive and Surf was an iconic, legendary group of, and they were youngsters at the time. So yeah, that's a fantastic. You know, you mentioned something about access to the waterways. I remember there was such an issue when I was growing up that people that were on the beach, they'd lock the gates and they wouldn't let people go to. Did you have something to do with the legislation that came out of that? And it was in all over Southern California, but in Malibu in particular. Do you remember those issues? That was back in like the 70s?
Yes. And in fact, Surfrider Foundation was started by surfers in Malibu in 1984 in response to concerns about the water, but also access to the water. So that's the reason Surfrider started, was because of coastal access and surfers wanting to be able to get into the water and have it be safe and enjoyable for them. So yes, we are very dedicated to not just engaging people to get involved in the community, get them out in the water, get them to do things to help the environment, but also we work very hard on getting legislation passed like coastal access, because they're always trying to privatize beaches and then regular people can't get to them, making sure there are ramps so that people who are not able to walk can get down to the water and things like that. So we work on those things, as well as water quality issues and climate change and coastal erosion and native plants, things like that. So yes, we are very active in the political realm as well.
Wow, that's interesting. I just popped into my head, and I had no idea that was the origins of the foundation. What's the website, real quick? Let's plug that a couple times during the show.
So the general website is Surfrider, one word, surfrider.org. And then our chapter, if you're in the Southern California area, is South Bay. There's also a Los Angeles chapter. To the south of us, we have chapters in Orange County, San Diego, of course, up in Ventura. So there are chapters all along the coast. But if you're in the South Bay area, then that would be surfrider.org, and then you'd go to the South Bay chapter.
That's interesting. So you've got different groups throughout Southern California. Is it all over California? Are you nationwide? You mentioned it.
Nationwide.
Oh, okay.
Mostly coastal, but we are moving inland. It's mostly coastal, so if you look at our map, which you can see on our website, you'll see most of the chapters are coastal. We have them also in Hawaii and Puerto Rico, so you'll see them in different places. But yes, mostly coastal, and now moving inland as well, because we're concerned about the waterways, because all water eventually goes through the ocean.
Of course. You mentioned the groups. How are you guys able to do that? I mean, what's your funding? Do you get any funding from the state or from the government? Are you all strictly donation and volunteer? Do you have a staff? So what goes on with the chapters of the national organization? I mean, how do you guys survive? Because you're taking on a real heavy load trying to keep our waters clean and giving us access to the beaches and the marinas. So how do you guys survive? Give me an idea about that.
I'm glad you asked about funding, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about. And that's one of the things I'm always very transparent with, not just our volunteers, but our students, is I want them to know that this stuff just magically fall out of the air. So we do have staff at national organizations, and some of the chapters have staff. At our chapter, we're all volunteer. And the majority of the money comes directly from donations and from memberships. Memberships is a big fund driver for us. We also have corporate affiliations. For example, Beach Life Festival, they're a supporter, and we table at their events. And then we do corporate cleanups, so a corporation will pay us to get their people out doing cleanups. And then we also have grants. I write a grant every year for our Teach and Test Blue Water Task Force program, and West Basin Municipal Water District funds us. They've been funding us. We started 20 years ago, and they've been funding us for the past 18. And they are not just a financial supporter, but they also provide field trips for our students, and they provide information and education to help teach the young people how they can get into the job and career market in the water industry, because that's something that really is left out of education at public schools now, saying that as a retired school teacher. It's nice to have a real-world application so they can see that the skills that they're learning, lab skills, sterile technique, how to manage a lab, how to work with other people, those skills can all translate into jobs. But the funding comes from different sources, and some chapters write grants. It just depends on what they're doing, and sometimes they get funding from cities. But it does vary quite a bit by chapter.
So you're a teacher. Are you still teaching, or have you retired? And tell me about your career.
For free. I teach, but I teach for free. So I retired early at age 50, and for the past 10 years, I've been focusing on science, education, arts, getting people engaged in the community, and I work compulsively for a series of nonprofit organizations. But Surfrider has been on my radar. I've been working with them for 20 years now. So.
Now, how did you come to the chapter that you're in? How did you come to Surfrider?
This wonderful, wonderful man who's a surfer, he's been a surfer his whole life. He's now quite a bit older than I am. He came to us at Redondo Union High where I was teaching biology, and he said, "Hey, we're starting this water quality testing program for high school students. Are you interested?" And I said, "Real world science? Where do I sign up?" And so our students, there were 2 schools that they started the program with, and our students got involved, and every other Sunday we'd go down and collect water samples and test them for bacteria. And I was hooked. I was hooked on the org, and I was hooked on the water quality testing because I am a biologist and I love the ocean. And getting my students out into the field, and they loved it, and they learned a lot. And now I run the program by myself because he retired, and some other people who helped start it, like Dan with Board Riders, helped start it as well. I'm running it now, and I just love the program.
Wow. Well, you're in the origins of surfers. Kind of came out of the South Bay. I mean, I know that is it Redondo Beach, Hermosa, where the Tim Kelly surf statue is?
Hermosa.
It is Hermosa. Okay, a legendary. Wow. By the Chart House. That was an iconic spot. So that's people that come to town, they want to go there and take a picture with him there. And of course, everybody in the South Bay grows up surfing. God, that's a fantastic story. Teaching is a real tough thing, and I'm glad there's a symbiotic relationship with this organization and the kids. Because as soon as the kids go out to any activity on the water, whether they're on the beach and they're surfing, or they get into a marina and get into a boat, a sailboat, or fishing, they're hooked for life.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's how I did it. So, and I remember, back when I was a youngster, the political issue, and I don't like talking politics, but it was very important to give access to Malibu and Santa Monica to the beaches because they were closing that down. So, do you have lobbyists? Does that happen?
Not in the way that people typically think of lobbyists, but we do lobbying activity, meaning we will go to our local representatives. I participated in one this year called Hill Day, where we go to our representatives and say, this is a piece of legislation that we support or that we are opposed to, and here's why. There's no money or anything changing hands, like that's what people typically think of with lobbying. But it's us saying, this is the science, this is what we know on the ground, and this is why we think this is a positive or negative thing. For example, with desal, the West Basin was going to do a desal plant, and they did lots of research and put lots of money into it, built a mock desal facility at the Sea Lab, and we fought for basically 2 decades to get that killed because we think it's terrible in terms of energy consumption. It's expensive. It harms the ocean life and changes the water quality, the salinity. We got that killed. So we were able to lobby successfully at West Basin and through political means to get desal in Los Angeles killed. They wrote it up in the Los Angeles Times and everything. It's a really, really big deal. So we still do lobby for things and against them. And when somebody does get a piece of legislation passed that we support and think is good for the environment and for people and animals and plants, we thank them and congratulate them. So we work on it on all ends.
God, that's really wonderful. And there's a big issues now going on in Redondo Beach with the super mall that they're trying to build. So what's going on there? Are you involved with that? Can you give us a little insight of what the background is and what are we going to expect in the near future?
Yes, I can't tell you everything I know, but I can tell you I not only with Surfrider Foundation to some degree, but also with South Bay Parkland Conservancy, we've been working to get that power plant shut down for basically 2 decades and finally succeeded. Our now late mayor, Bill Brand, a friend of mine I miss dearly, who passed away this year, was able to throw the off switch on the 31st of December in 2023, which he'd been working to do for, as I say, about 2 decades. And our current mayor, Jim Light, is continuing the work to make sure that that area, which used to be a salt lake, is restored to native habitat for wildlife. And we work, as I said, with South Bay Parkland Conservancy. We work on habitat restoration. So that's our big goal there, is not to have a bunch more development, not to put in more movie theaters and malls, because we have plenty of those and so many of them are half empty in COVID times. So we really want to put basically a nature preserve there, a habitat, native habitat, so that people can see what it looked like. And there are photographs. We know exactly what it looked like before the power plant came in and changed everything. And it's going to be a long process, but that's our goal, is to have at least part, if not all of it, native habitat and places where people can go and learn about nature and experience the kind of nature they don't normally see, because most of it's been filled in. Most wetlands are gone. We've destroyed over 96% of our wetlands in this country.
Sure. I know. I did not know about the Salt Lake, and I know Redondo Beach. I've sailed there. I as a youngster, grew up there, a lot of friends there. I didn't live there, but I've got family and relatives that do. But I didn't know about the Salt Lake. So the power plant uprooted a environmental, a lake, a salt lake?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a very rare thing. It's not a very common type of biome that we have, and so we really would love to have that restored for the habitat for overwintering birds and migratory birds particularly, but then also just to show people there's one more habitat, like vernal pools are almost extinct for the same reason, from development, and it's really neat to be able to just. It'll never be the same as it was originally, but at least it can give us an idea of what it was like, and we can learn from it and provide habitat for migratory birds and overwintering birds, which they desperately need.
Well, I didn't know that this was a key project for the former mayor, Bill Brand. People loved him, and I'll tell you, I was at the Elks Club, Redondo Beach Elks Club, on Memorial Day. Captain Creasy, the Coast Guard Captain Creasy, who was brought out here and has risen to the position she's in now because of her environmental, biological background. I got to get her on the show, because she's got, we call it solid. I don't know how she stands upright, but she's one of those experts, and she had something to do with cleaning up the environment with the oil spills. So she was the keynote speaker. And it was the mayor, the current mayor, Jim Light, spoke. And they gave a presentation. They gave a flag. Of course, they played taps, and then they gave a flag to Bill Brown's wife. So she was sitting in the front row next to she was absolutely wonderful. And I was there, in Costa uniform, and I was taking pictures, and I tried not to let anybody see me cry. It was wonderful, and they put on, the Elks Club right there in that wonderful park. They put on an event every year that is really wonderful. Fire department was there, a lot of people, and then the Redondo Beach, the high school, they played, and they were absolutely amazing. So it was wonderful. Memorial Day was really great. So we got a little bit of a little tearjerker. Everybody, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the audience. So it was wonderful. But I didn't know that was Bill Brand's project. So people can, tell me about some of the things coming up. If somebody is listening, they're in high school, or they want to get their kids involved, or they'd like to get involved, how do they do that? What can they expect? And what are some of the, either events or activities that they can go to?
Well, the neat thing about having local chapters with a large organization is not only do we get support and guidance from the large organization, but local chapters can focus on what they want to. And our chapter has focused on this water quality testing program for public school students for 2 decades now. And that really is our flagship, if I may use that term, for this chapter. So the neat thing about it is, if students don't have to be crazy about science to get into it, if they're interested in, like you said, lobbying or politics or going into government, they can go and talk to the city council. They can write letters. They can do presentations at their school. Or I had one group one year, and they took presentations and did them at elementary schools in the district to teach the kids about water quality. they can do art. There are all sorts of ways they can engage and get involved. We have activities listed on our website that people can volunteer for. We've got a social this Thursday evening that everybody's invited to, and again, that can be found on our website. We have beach cleanups once a month, and all ages are welcome. And if we have a group that wants to do a special beach cleanup, they can contact us, and we can arrange that. With the teaching test, they can get information off our website as well, and then that would direct them to me, and we can look at, if their school's already involved, or do they want to form a Surfrider Foundation club at their school, which engages the kids. Yeah, so there are so many different levels of involvement possible. So what I would recommend is people go to the website and just poke around and see what looks interesting. Look at the news feed, look at the blogs, and see what piques their interest, and then we can start to channel them down those avenues. And Surfrider Foundation is so neat. I remember when Alan Walty came to us and said, hey, do you want to join this program? And I said, yes. My ecology club at the time, they said, we want to do a fundraiser for you. We want to do a fundraiser for Surfrider. And Alan said, no, we don't want your money. We want you to be engaged. We want you to get involved. We want you to make a difference. We want you to feel meaningful and purposeful in the world. We don't want your money. So that, to me, it sets us aside. It sets us apart from so many different nonprofits. As I said, I'm with a whole bunch. But we never walk around with our hand out. I mean, we want the memberships, but that's because we want people to be engaged so we can give them information, get them involved in volunteer opportunities. We are not chasing dollars all the time. We want people engaged.
Yeah, that is so exciting. I'm really glad I was able to get you on the show. I barely scratched the surface. I got to invite you back, and I'd like you to make sure that you give me something to put up on the website so I can link, your activities and the stuff that you do. I want to invite you back as well. Will we see you at any of these shows, like the boat shows, the Bart Hall show, or any of the boating shows? Do you guys ever get out there with booze?
We come to some of those, and if there's something that you think we could table at or do a booth at, invite us, and we'll be happy to come if we're available. We also have a fundraiser coming up with the South Bay Board Riders Club, and what they do is get kids out into the water. That's coming up July 6th. So we are willing to engage when we're invited, if we're available, anything to get people out into the environment, out on the water, boats, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, surfboards, walking, bodyboards, surfing, diving, anything that gets people out into the water. And it can be, rivers and streams and bays and estuaries. Okay. It's not just the ocean. So we're all over it.
God, that's so exciting. Well, Mary from the Surfrider Foundation, I want to thank you for joining me. It's really been wonderful. I'm going to invite you back, and maybe if I'm in a boat show, I'm going to try to share that with you. I'll definitely keep in touch with you, and we'll put some stuff on our website. So I thank you again. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests, and I want to thank our guest today, Mary from Surfrider Foundation, for coming on. And let's not forget the coast. Yeah, it was so wonderful. Really, I appreciate it. And let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. I spent, Mary, the whole month of May talking about the Coast Guard. I've had all kinds of Coast Guard people on the show, clear up to the July 4th show. I've had some Coasties, and we covered them for Fleet Week and Armed Forces Parade. And I really like to feature the Coast Guard because they do some wonderful stuff. Well, anyway, remember that if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out there in the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. And this is going to be a wonderful summer, so get out on the water. Thanks to our sponsors for the show today. For a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics and Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radios throughout Southern California without drop zones, dead batteries, and the inherent limitations of all the other communication systems. Mobile Relay Associates, Raycom Radios, mra-raycom.com. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, and now on social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. The Boating Hour with Captain Rick coming up next week. We've got someone from the Navy Yacht Club, started out on the active duty Navy, and now it's a yacht club in Long Beach in a wonderful spot, open to all military and locals in Long Beach. Absolutely wonderful club. The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. We've got a lot of exciting guests coming up for you all summer long. So make sure you tune in to the boatinghour.com on AM 870 every Saturday and check out our website. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all.